December 23, 2008, SpaceX headquarters, Los Angeles. Elon Musk sat in his office staring at his bank account. He had just enough money left to save one company, SpaceX or Tesla, not both. 3 rocket launches, 3 failures, millions of dollars burning up in the atmosphere. Tesla was bleeding cash, weeks away from collapse. The financial crisis had frozen all investor money, the world's biggest banks were failing, and Elon Musk had to make a choice that would either make him a legend or a cautionary tale about hubris and failure. Fast forward to 2021, Elon's net worth hits $340 billion, the richest person in human history. So what happened in between? How does someone go from choosing which company dies to becoming the wealthiest human on Earth? Today, we're diving deep into the real story of how Elon Musk got rich, not the mythology, not the Twitter persona, the actual timeline where every dollar came from, the calculated risks, the near-death experiences, the turning points that changed everything. Because here's what most people miss. Elon Musk bet everything he had not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, and each time he came within weeks of losing it all. This is that story. Let's start from the very beginning. June 28, 1971, Pretoria, South Africa, a country in the grip of apartheid. This is where Elon Reeve Musk is born. His father, Elon Musk, was an electromechanical engineer. His mother, May, was a model and dietitian. On paper, this looks like privilege, a comfortable middle-class family in suburban Pretoria. But the reality of Elon's childhood was far more complex and much darker. Elon was small for his age, quiet, socially awkward, and in the brutal social hierarchy of South African schools in the 1970s and 80s, this made him a target. He was bullied relentlessly, not just teasing, we're talking about severe physical violence. At one point, a group of boys threw him down a concrete staircase and beat him so badly he was hospitalized. He had problems breathing through his nose for years afterward. For most of his childhood, Elon had no friends. He was alone, isolated. But he had books. While other kids were playing sports or socializing, Elon was reading, obsessively. Science fiction novels, encyclopedias, Foundation by Isaac Asimov, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He read for 10 hours a day. When he ran out of books at the school library, he read the Encyclopedia Britannica, the entire thing. This wasn't just escapism. Elon was building a mental model of how the world worked, physics, technology, systems thinking. He was teaching himself to think from first principles. When he was 10, something happened that would change his trajectory forever. His father bought a Commodore VIC-20 computer. Remember, this is 1981. Personal computers were rare, expensive, and mostly useless to the average person. But to Elon, this machine was a gateway. The computer came with a workbook on how to program in BASIC. It was supposed to take 6 months to complete. Elon finished it in 3 days. He didn't sleep, he just coded. By age 12, he had created his first video game, Blastar. It was a simple space shooter game, nothing groundbreaking. But here's what matters. He sold the source code to a computer magazine called PC and Office Technology for $500. $500. His first entrepreneurial success. Most importantly, he learned something crucial. You can turn ideas into money, code into cash. This lesson would define his entire career. But South Africa in the 1980s was a dead end for someone with global ambitions. The country was isolated, sanctioned, and Elon could see no future there. Plus, at 17, he was facing mandatory military service in the South African Army, which at the time was enforcing apartheid. Elon decided to leave, but there was a problem. He couldn't get a US visa yet. So he used a back door. His mother had been born in Canada, which meant Elon could claim Canadian citizenship. In 1989, just before his 18th birthday, Elon left South Africa with barely any money. He showed up in Canada essentially alone. No job, no real plan, just a belief that the North America was where the future was being built. And the next 2 years were humbling. He stayed with relatives. When that ran out, he worked whatever jobs he could find. He shoveled grain bins at a farm. He cut logs with a chainsaw. He cleaned out boilers in a lumber mill, wearing a hazmat suit in 120-degree heat, scooping out toxic residue through a tiny tunnel. These weren't glamorous jobs, but they taught Elon something important. Hard work doesn't kill you. Discomfort is temporary. If you can survive manual labor, you can survive anything. Eventually, he enrolled at Queen's University in Ontario. 2 years later, he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania on a scholarship. And this is where Elon's intellectual foundation solidified. He pursued 2 degrees simultaneously, a Bachelor of Science in Physics and a Bachelor of Science in Economics from the Wharton School. This combination is critical to understanding everything that came after. Physics taught him to think in first principles, break complex problems down to fundamental truths, and reason up from there. Don't accept "that's how it's always been done" as an answer. Economics taught him about markets, scale, and how to turn scientific innovation into viable businesses. By 1995, Elon had been accepted to Stanford University for a PhD in applied physics and material science. Stanford, one of the most prestigious physics programs in the world. Most people would kill for that opportunity. Elon showed up to orientation in California, attended exactly 2 days of classes, and then he dropped out. Why? Because he looked around and saw something bigger happening: the internet. Netscape had just gone public. People were starting to shop online. Newspapers were going digital. The entire world was about to change. And Elon didn't want to study the revolution. He wanted to build it. So in 1995, at age 25, Elon Musk became an entrepreneur with almost no money, no investors, no safety net. Just an idea and a willingness to risk everything. 1995, Palo Alto, California, the heart of what would soon be called Silicon Valley. Elon Musk and his brother Kimball start a company called Zip2. The concept? An online city guide for newspapers. Maps, business directories, yellow pages, all searchable on the internet. Today, this sounds obvious. In 1995, this was revolutionary. Remember, this was before Google Maps, before Yelp. Most newspapers didn't even have websites yet. Elon was building infrastructure for an internet that barely existed. But starting a tech company requires money, servers, office space, living expenses, and the Musk brothers had almost nothing. Here's where the story gets interesting and a bit controversial. Elon's father, Errol, invested $28,000 into Zip2. This is a fact that Elon has downplayed over the years because of his deeply troubled relationship with his father, whom he's described as a terrible human being. But the money was real, and it was the seed capital. However, and this is crucial, $28,000 doesn't build a successful company. Most startups with 10 times that amount fail. The money just bought them time. What really built Zip2 was brutal, grinding work. Elon and Kimball rented a small office, and by small, I mean it was so tiny they couldn't afford a separate apartment, so they lived in the office. They had one computer that Elon used during the day to code and demonstrate the software to potential clients. At night, Kimball would use it to run the website. Elon slept on a beanbag next to his desk. They showered at the YMCA down the street. They survived on cheap food. This went on for months. The work was relentless. Elon coded the entire platform himself, the website, the database, the search algorithms, everything. He'd code all day, test it, fix bugs, then code all night. He pulled so many all-nighters that his sleep schedule completely divorced from normal human hours. But here's what made Zip2 work: perfect timing and execution. 1995 was the exact moment when newspapers realized the internet wasn't a fad. Print circulation was starting to decline. Classified ads, their main revenue source, were beginning to move online. They needed a digital strategy fast. Zip2 offered a turnkey solution. Elon and Kimball would approach a newspaper and say, "We'll build your entire online city guide, maps, business listings, directions. Your readers can find restaurants, shops, services, all branded with your newspaper's name." It was a brilliant business model. The newspapers got to look cutting edge without having to learn how to code. Zip2 got contracts and revenue. The company grew, slowly at first, then faster. They signed the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune. Knight Ridder bought a stake in the company. But growth brought conflict. Venture capitalists invested money into Zip2, which meant they now had a say in how the company ran. They brought in a CEO to replace Elon, a more experienced leader, they said. Elon was furious but couldn't fight it. He remained the chief technology officer and largest shareholder, but he'd been kicked out of the CEO role of his own company. This would happen to him again at his next company. These early experiences taught Elon a harsh lesson: always maintain control. Despite the internal drama, Zip2 kept growing. By 1999, the company had contracts with over 160 newspapers and was generating real revenue. Then in February 1999, Compaq Computer Corporation made an offer. They would buy Zip2 for $307 million in cash. Let me repeat that: $307 million. Elon Musk, at 27 years old, owned 7% of the company. His share of the sale? $22 million. $22 million. Most people who make that kind of money buy a mansion, a nice car, maybe invest in index funds, and live comfortably forever. Not Elon. He bought one thing for himself: a McLaren F1 supercar for $1 million. At the time, it was one of the fastest cars in the world. Fun fact, he later crashed it while showing off to Peter Thiel. It wasn't insured. But that McLaren was the only personal luxury. Everything else? Elon immediately started planning his next company. And this one was even more ambitious. March 1999. 1 month after selling Zip2, Elon Musk starts a new company called X.com. His vision? To revolutionize banking. Put the entire financial system online. Make it so anyone could send money via email, pay bills, earn interest, take out loans, all through the internet. In 1999, this was insane. Banks barely had websites. Most people were still scared to put their credit card numbers online. The financial industry was a fortress of regulation and old-world thinking. Elon saw it differently. He believed the internet would disrupt every industry, and banking was the biggest opportunity. He invested $12 million of his Zip2 money into X.com. This time, he made sure he was CEO. He'd learned his lesson. X.com launched as one of the world's first online banks. You could open an account in minutes, transfer money via email. At launch, Elon offered $20 to every person who signed up and $20 for every referral. This was growth hacking before growth hacking was a term. Within the first 2 months, X.com had over 200,000 customers. But there was a problem. Another company was doing something similar. Confinity, founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin, had created a product called PayPal that let people send money via Palm Pilots and email. Both companies were fighting for the same market: online payments. The competition was brutal. Both companies were burning through cash, trying to acquire customers faster than the other. It was unsustainable. So, in March 2000, X.com and Confinity merged. Elon was CEO of the combined company. It seemed like the perfect solution. But Silicon Valley is a ruthless place. In September 2000, while Elon was on his honeymoon with his first wife Justine, the board of directors held a meeting. Peter Thiel, Max Levchin, and other board members voted to remove Elon as CEO. A coup, while he was on his honeymoon. Elon returned to find Peter Thiel had replaced him as CEO. The company would keep the name PayPal, not X.com. Most entrepreneurs would walk away, sell their shares, move on. But Elon stayed on as a board member and remained the largest shareholder. He believed in the vision, even if he wasn't running the company. And he was right to stay. PayPal exploded. It became the default payment method for eBay, which at the time was the biggest e-commerce platform in the world. Millions of people used PayPal every day. By 2002, PayPal had 70 million users. Then eBay made an offer they couldn't refuse. In July 2002, eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion in stock. Elon owned 11.7% of PayPal. After taxes, his share came to $165 million. He was 31 years old. $165 million in the bank, set for life. Now, here's what normal, rational, sane people do with $165 million. They diversify, put it in index funds, buy real estate, protect the wealth, live off the interest. Maybe angel invest small amounts in other startups. Elon Musk looked at $165 million and thought, I can use this to make humanity a multiplanetary species and solve climate change. I'm not exaggerating. That's actually what he did. And what happens next is the craziest part of the entire story. 2002. Elon Musk is worth $165 million, and he's bored. Actually, it's worse than bored. He's frustrated. He looks at humanity's progress and sees us stuck on one planet, burning fossil fuels with no real plan to become a spacefaring civilization. So he starts researching space travel. He wants to fund a project to send a greenhouse to Mars, just to inspire people, just to get NASA excited about Mars again. But when he looks into the cost of rockets, he discovers something shocking. Launching stuff into space costs tens of millions of dollars per launch, and the prices weren't coming down. In fact, adjusted for inflation, space launches were getting more expensive. Elon starts reading physics textbooks, rocket science manuals. He teaches himself aerospace engineering from scratch, and he realizes something. The actual materials for a rocket, aluminum, titanium, copper, carbon fiber, only cost about 2% of the typical rocket price, which means 98% of the cost is inefficiency, bureaucracy, and the monopoly pricing of defense contractors. Elon decides, I'm going to start a rocket company. I'm going to build rockets for a fraction of the current cost, and eventually, I'm going to make humanity multiplanetary. Everyone thought he was insane. June 2002, Elon founds Space Exploration Technologies Corp., SpaceX. He invests $100 million of his own money, over half his entire net worth, into rockets. an industry where dozens of companies had failed, where only governments had succeeded. He moves to Los Angeles and starts hiring the smartest aerospace engineers he can find. Many of them leave NASA or Boeing to join this crazy startup. The goal? Build the Falcon 1 rocket, a small, cheap, reusable rocket that could launch satellites into orbit. But $100 million into rockets means Elon only has about $65 million left. What does he do with it? In 2004, he invests $70 million into a tiny startup called Tesla Motors. Wait, how do you invest $70 million when you only have $65 million left? Elon sold more PayPal stock, took out loans, and went all in. Tesla had been founded by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning in 2003. They wanted to build electric sports cars, not golf carts, actual, fast, sexy, desirable cars. Elon became the largest investor and chairman of the board. Later, he'd become CEO, but in 2004, he was the money guy and the visionary pushing the company to be ambitious. Why electric cars? Because Elon saw the same problem as with rockets. The technology was possible, but the industry had given up. GM had killed the EV1 electric car. Toyota made boring hybrids. Nobody was making electric cars that people actually wanted to buy. Elon believed you could make electric cars better than gas cars, faster, more fun, cooler. And that's how you'd change the world, not by lecturing people about the environment, but by making better products. So now Elon is running two companies in two of the hardest industries on Earth, aerospace and automotive, industries with massive capital requirements, long development cycles, and entrenched competition. He also invests $10 million in his cousin's solar panel company, SolarCity. Let's do the math. That's about $180 million invested. He made $165 million from PayPal. Where's the extra money? Loans, debt, selling stock. Elon wasn't diversifying. He was concentrating his entire net worth into three incredibly risky companies. For the next 6 years, both SpaceX and Tesla burn through cash. SpaceX launches its first Falcon 1 rocket in 2006. It fails 33 seconds after liftoff. They try again in 2007. The rocket fails again. Third launch, 2008. Failure. Each failure costs millions of dollars, literally going up in smoke. Engineers are demoralized. Investors are losing faith. The media is writing articles about Elon's hubris. Meanwhile, Tesla is having its own nightmare. The Tesla Roadster, their first car, is way over budget. Production is a disaster. The original design is too expensive to manufacture. They have to redesign major parts. Suppliers are late. Costs are exploding. Then 2008 hits, the global financial crisis. Lehman Brothers collapses. The stock market crashes. The auto industry is dying. GM and Chrysler are being bailed out by the government. Nobody is investing in startups. Venture capital has completely dried up. Elon Musk is in the worst position of his life. SpaceX has failed 3 times and is nearly out of money. They have enough for one more launch. If it fails, the company is dead. Tesla is bleeding cash. They need a new funding round, but investors are running away from the automotive industry. Elon's personal life is also falling apart. He's going through a divorce. The media is attacking him. A blog called The Truth About Cars publishes a series called Tesla Death Watch, gleefully predicting the company's demise. And here's the gut-wrenching decision. Elon has enough personal money left to save one company, SpaceX or Tesla, not both. Most people would cut their losses, save one, let the other die, preserve some wealth, live to fight another day. Elon Musk split his remaining money between both companies. It wasn't enough to fully fund either one, it was just enough to buy a few more weeks. but he couldn't bring himself to choose. September 28, 2008, SpaceX's fourth Falcon 1 launch. If this rocket fails, SpaceX is finished. Employees are updating their resumes. Elon is watching from mission control, knowing this is the end if it doesn't work. The rocket launches. First stage separates. Second stage ignites. The rocket reaches orbit. Success. Finally, SpaceX had proven it could build a working orbital rocket. But they're still almost out of money. December 23, 2008, 2 days before Christmas, SpaceX has maybe a few weeks of cash left. Employees don't know if they'll have jobs in January. Then, December 24th, Christmas Eve, NASA calls. SpaceX has won a $1.6 billion contract to resupply the International Space Station. The company is saved, not by months, by days. That NASA contract also sends a signal to Tesla investors. Elon Musk's companies can survive. They can win. Tesla secures another funding round. The company survives. Both companies were within weeks of bankruptcy. Both survived. If that fourth rocket had failed, if NASA had chosen someone else, if investors hadn't believed, Elon Musk would be a cautionary tale, a dot-com millionaire who lost everything trying to build rockets and cars. Instead, he was about to become the richest person on Earth. 2010, Tesla goes public. The IPO raises $226 million. The stock opens at $17 per share. Elon finally has some breathing room. SpaceX keeps winning contracts. They launch satellites. They perfect reusable rockets. In 2012, they become the first private company to send a spacecraft to the International Space Station. Tesla starts delivering the Model S sedan in 2012. It's beautiful, fast, high-tech. It wins Motor Trend Car of the Year. Suddenly, electric cars are cool. And Elon's net worth starts climbing. 2012, $2 billion. 2013, $6.7 billion. 2017, $20 billion. Tesla starts building gigafactories. The Model 3, a more affordable electric car, goes into production. Sales explode globally. SpaceX launches the Falcon Heavy, the most powerful operational rocket in the world. They land boosters on drone ships in the ocean. They start building Starship, a fully reusable rocket designed to go to Mars. 2020, Elon's net worth hits $25 billion, then $50 billion, then $100 billion. And then 2021 happens. Tesla's stock price goes absolutely insane. The company becomes the most valuable car company on Earth, worth more than Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, and GM combined. Elon's net worth in 2021 peaks at over $340 billion, the richest person in human history. But here's what matters about this story. This wasn't luck. This wasn't inheritance. This wasn't a lottery ticket. This was a repeating pattern. Build something valuable, sell it, take the money, bet it all on something even harder. Zip2 taught him how to build and sell a tech company, $22 million. PayPal taught him how to scale, $165 million. SpaceX and Tesla taught him how to survive when the entire world thinks you're going to fail. And through it all, one consistent principle: Elon never played it safe. Most people who make $22 million retire. Elon bet it all on PayPal. Most people who make $165 million diversify. Elon bet it all on rockets and electric cars. Most people facing bankruptcy in 2008 would save one company. Elon bet on both. Every single time, he was willing to lose everything. So, what can we actually learn from how Elon Musk got rich? First, Initial capital matters. Elon's first millions came from selling Zip2. That gave him the freedom to take bigger risks. You need that first win to unlock the bigger games. Second, timing is everything. Elon entered online payments right before e-commerce exploded. He entered electric cars and private space right before both industries transformed. You can't force timing, but you can position yourself to be ready when the wave comes. Third, concentration beats diversification when you're young and building. Every financial advisor will tell you to diversify. Elon did the opposite. He put everything into his highest conviction ideas. This is incredibly risky, but it's also how you build massive wealth. Fourth, you will nearly fail, multiple times. Elon almost lost everything in 2008. Most successful entrepreneurs have similar stories. The difference between success and failure often comes down to who can survive just a few more weeks. Fifth, hard work alone isn't enough, but nothing works without it. Elon slept in his office at Zip2. He taught himself rocket science. He worked 100-hour weeks for years. Talent and timing matter, but they're useless without brutal execution. And finally, once is never enough. Elon could have retired after Zip2, after PayPal, after Tesla's IPO, but he kept going. Each success funded the next impossible project. This is how Elon Musk got rich. Not through inheritance, not through luck, not through one brilliant idea, through one successful company reinvested into two nearly impossible companies, barely surviving a global financial crisis and eventually changing multiple industries forever. The playbook isn't easy. It's actually terrifying. Most people who try this lose everything. But for the few who survive, the rewards are world-changing. Next week, we're breaking down Jeff Bezos, how a Wall Street analyst built an online bookstore in his garage, survived the dot-com crash, and built it into a trillion-dollar empire that sells everything from books to cloud computing. Drop a comment. Who else should we cover? Warren Buffett? Mark Zuckerberg? Sam Walton? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.